Welcome to Space 1.5 スペース1.5へようこそ。スイッチのアートディレクターをしています、レミです。ここではサステナブルに関する作品を制作しているアーティストをお呼びし、作品またはアーティストについてのインタビューをします。今回お呼びしているのはヘイデン・クレイさん。彼は日常が洪水している様子を幻想的に CG アートを使って制作をしています。それではどうぞ。
My name is Hayden Clay Williams, and I'm an artist currently living in Brooklyn, New York, but I'm from Maryland. And yeah, I'm super passionate about sustainability and how we can talk about that via art. So super excited to be here and to chat. I'm a film photographer and a 3D artist, and I create work that's pretty dreamy in nature. Most of it focuses on the aesthetic of water. My main series that I'm probably most well known for is World Underwater, which is a series that sort of imagines Earth flooded by water. Familiar scenes such as a diner or a subway car or an airplane, just sort of like approaching the idea of what will the future look like. Yeah, so currently there's 13 images in this series, and some have a large representation. Some were pretty much just chosen for aesthetic reasons, chosen for like a playful reason. But the subway series, there's 4 images that feature New York subways, and those are incredibly specific and deliberate, where it's almost a little crazy. I have one where it's featuring like the stairs entering a subway, and it's flooded with water. And that one especially like is so close to reality, where whenever I share that, I always get comments for like, oh yeah, this happened last week due to like Hurricane X, or some person from some other country is like, yeah, this happened as well. So it's very much like a scene that jumps out to people as something that is relatable. And that's sort of the essence of the series. We're like, wow, like that is something that should not be flooded, and it's happening, and it looks like that. And it definitely sends a strong message of like, this could be us. So the series was actually inspired by a trip to Venice. And as you may know, that is Venice's problem of choice. They are very much struggling with flooding. So I was honestly pretty unfamiliar with like the way that they reacted and sort of adapted to it. And if you visit Venice, a lot of doors will have like these metal grates that are like 2 feet tall, sort of just blocking the fact that water is going to be there at some point. And there's lots of like stacks of basically metal crates just kind of standing by, where in the event like a plaza floods, you can sort of create like an artificial bridge to kind of walk past it. So when I found out about that, I was like, whoa, this city is just acting like these floods are normal, and they've completely adapted and like embraced the fact that, yeah, like tomorrow there might be 2 feet of water just over there. So we're going to deal with it. And like that idea blew my mind. And I immediately started thinking like, what if everywhere has to act like that? And I started like imagining my hometown or like a diner that I've been to, just like flooded with water. And it was a really fun, like mental exercise and experiment to sort of dream up this future, which is why I started making art of it. But I just feel like Venice is almost like a sneak peek of what's to come. The almost ironic nature of this medium is that it is not environmentally friendly. And unfortunately, most aspects of art would not be. Like you think of like a print, for example, is made from trees, or in good cases bamboo, which is relatively a better option. But like I just mentioned, making a render, it's like leaving your computer on overnight, kind of burning through electricity. But in the end, any form of creation is going to do that. So that is unfortunate, but I think the message that it carries is more powerful. And I don't think anyone is saying like artists should not exist and should not create art because it's bad for sustainability. So it's just an unfortunate aspect of reality. But as for the message, that's the important part. And the goal is, like you just mentioned, talking about Japan and in many other places on Earth, it's surprisingly not something that is agreed on, where like we would agree that it's a problem, that
Mhm.
climate change is real, but it's incredible to me that not everyone feels that way, where it's almost like a partisan issue where like half of the population thinks it's real, the other half does not. So that's definitely something that needs to change. And my goal is simply just to make people talk about it. Like it's kind of tricky to imagine how you can impact the world as one person. And my attempt is just making art that gets people talking about climate change. People share it, maybe opinions change. Just the fact that we are talking about it is definitely a good step in the right direction. I
Mhm.
think like if no one's mentioning it, nothing's going to change. Initially, I would say there's not much difference between an individual and an artist for their responsibility there. Um, but there probably is something. I mean, an artist should definitely consider like their materials and try to not be incredibly unsustainable with what they're doing.
Renewable
Um,
energy.
exactly. Yeah, and just to be as most efficient as possible. But I wouldn't say like every artist needs to drop what they're doing and make a series about climate change. I think like that's pretty forced, but I
Mhm.
think it's definitely something that people should be aware that they have the power to change. Where if you were to make a series about a problem that you are passionate about, you can make a real impact. And unfortunately, there are multiple problems in this world right now. Climate change is a huge one, but I think like no judgment to whatever problem you decide is the one that you think needs solving the most. So I think every individual should definitely be voicing their opinion on climate change and its reality and acting the most sustainable way possible. But honestly, the way that something is going to change is through policy. And you mentioned earlier, like taxation on sustainability. So that's the goal. And getting there is a bumpy road. But by talking about it and by like raising a ruckus via art or any other medium, I think we can get there.